you? I hope you're good. Last year I made a fan web series all by myself. It was called Diaries of the Quiet Heroes and was based in the world of Harry Potter in the 80s. I have some of the costume pieces here. We still have the wallpaper from the set here. It was the first time that I'd released anything fully scripted or anything like this on my channel, and it was a super scary step to take for me. So in this video I'm going to show you the process of how it was made, right from the idea to writing the script to getting it all ready to filming it, post-production, absolutely everything. I'm going to try and go through. It's going to be like a little bit of a diary. Looking back at the series now, if I'm going to be honest, it makes me cringe.
I curse people and I turn your lovers into frogs!
But that doesn't matter. I was inspired to do something and I went out and did it, and I learned a lot along the way. Okay, quickly before we get into it, don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy my videos and put the notification bell on. A free bourbon biscuit is on me for every single subscriber. And of course I also have a Twitter and Instagram where you can keep up to date with absolutely everything, so feel free to follow me on there. And as you may know, I'm also working right now on an unofficial Harry Potter fan film called Sisters of House Black. Also actually have a separate Instagram for that. I feel like a lot of people don't know about that. It's called Ellie Vision. But we're talking about Diaries of the Quiet Heroes today, so let's get on to the video. If you're a regular watcher, I need to finish this bourbon, hang on just a second. So if you're a regular watcher of my channel, then you may know that I'm a big fan of Harry Potter, but I'm also a big fan of the 80s. Woo! One day I was walking to the coach station to go visit my hometown Barnsley, and I was rolling along my Harry Potter, like Hogwarts trunk inspired suitcase, and I was listening to 80s tunes blasting out of my earphones. And I was just wondering that how would the wizarding world have been in the 80s? How cool would it have been in the 80s? So I got on the bus and my imagination just started running wild. I just started thinking what the wizarding world would be like in the 80s, and then the character of Holly kind of came up in my mind. I then also remembered the first Wizarding War ended in 1981 when baby Harry killed Voldemort for the first time, killed him, and some ideas just start to form. The character of Holly, a really sketchy version of her, just started to form. I thought of this muggle-born girl who had just finished her 6th year and was going into her 7th year, which is happening right at the prime time of that Wizarding War, when everything is at its worst in that Wizarding War. I thought it could be an interesting story to tell or think about. One side of the war, the Death Eaters, fighting against her own kind because she's a muggle-born, and just a teenager with all these worries, trying to not just figure out herself, but also figure out what is she going to do in this wizarding world that is at war. Someone who's in the background of the hero stories, the heroes being the Marauders.
Basically, James Potter was an older Gryffindor student at Hogwarts. He left in my 3rd year?
It shows how war can affect everyone and how everyone has a story to tell. But how could I do this? I'd never made a film or series before on my channel. I'd never done one ever. I only had a vlogging camera, this one, a Canon G7X, a tripod, and my laptop to edit. That was all the equipment that I had, and I certainly didn't have the budget to buy anything else or hire people in to help me. I had to think of a way to make do with what I had, and in some ways that actually got my creative juices flowing a lot more. I thought back to the Lonely Girl 15 format. If you guys don't know what that is, it was basically a girl who pretended she was an actress. She pretended to do video diaries, and it was so believable. People believed it for ages, and then it came out that she was an actor and it was all produced. It was very interesting. It was such an innovative way to tell stories, and I thought this would be a good way to tell my story with the budget that I have. And I thought it'd be super cool to have her filming it on an old 80s camcorder, because I love the 80s, love the 80s aesthetic, woo, 80s, woo. The problem was, Muggle items don't work in Hogwarts, so I had to rethink where I would set this place. So I settled on Holly's bedroom and also started it in the summer of 1981, so she was at home in her Muggle-born home in the summer, so Muggle objects would work, so it would make sense. We could start the story there. I researched if even personal video cameras were around in 1981. Turns out there were prototypes, so I made her dad work at the BBC, so that would make sense as well. I started writing the script more like a diary because that's what she would be doing. She would be diarying, is that a word? Diarying things out to the camera, and because a lot of it would be monologued. I wrote character backgrounds on both Holly and Clara to get a gist of their lives, who they were, so I could bring it into the story. It just kind of, everything was, it was like puzzle pieces trying to bring it into the story. I went pretty in depth. I actually know what happens after the story. I know a lot of what happens to the characters after the story, and that's actually how I got the code name of Firebolt for Holly, because I knew that Clara would go into the broom making industry.
I think mine will be Firebolt, because I'm always setting things on fire.
I like it. Maybe one day I'll reveal the full stories of what happens afterwards, but I like how it keeps the audience guessing. I like stories that do that, so this one keeps you guessing how Holly's life will be after the war has ended. It leaves the rest to your imagination, and I like it when stories do that, so I don't know if I will. Funnily enough, when I was writing character backgrounds, I fell in love with the character of Clara. She is my favourite character. She has such an interesting background and conflict going on in her life, and her attitude to everything also drew me in a lot as well. At one point, I seriously considered making Clara the main character instead, but then I thought, as a consumer, I do actually really love when there's super interesting side characters. Again, if they're not the main character, it leaves so much to imagination. You want to know more about them, it makes them super interesting, it makes the world more in-depth. I think that's actually one of the reasons why I love Harry Potter so much. And also, her story and her themes are very similar to Andromeda's. Actually, on that note, writing this actually inspired me to finally start writing Sisters of House Black, which is an idea that I've had in my head for so long. Sisters of House Black is the unofficial Harry Potter fan film that we're working on right now. I'll put links below so you can check it out. We have a preview scene out right now, but anyway, it gave me the confidence to start writing it. It took me a while to get the completed story. It took me around 2 months, I think. This is it. This is the one. I've not cut my fringe properly, but there we go. That's the end. I get like a jolt of nerves, like it's like a really weird feeling in my stomach when I see that. I knew that most of the episodes I could improvise myself because it would be talking to the camera, monologuing. I wrote it, I knew I was playing Holly, so I could improvise a lot, but I still wanted to fully write out the script so then I could make sure I didn't miss anything out, to make sure that I really did have an in-depth story and that I could get the full story across. The radio station plot didn't actually exist until the very last minute. I knew there was something missing in the story, and literally a week before Layla was coming in to film for Clara, I got the idea, so I had to send her a new version of the script, which she'd already learnt all of the script. Thankfully, she was okay to do that. She is an absolute superstar. So yeah, the script kind of more or less changed because of that a week before we started filming. Now this was fun and exciting. I put the call out for people to audition for the mum, dad, Holly's brother Craig as a voiceover, and of course for Clara. I put adverts on Mandy Actors, Facebook, and on my Twitter. Layla was actually the first person to hand in her audition. Some of you may know that I know Layla from being in a girl group with her. However, I never directly asked her to audition. She did that of her own free will. I also knew a few of the others who auditioned too, which made it a bit awkward. My sister Abby even showed interest in auditioning for Clara, which is when she planted in my head the idea that she could possibly seriously work for the role of Andromeda in Sisters of House Black. I remember seeing the auditions and being incredibly awed and excited about it. The characters that I imagined and wrote were there in the flesh, and everyone had such different interpretations of it as well. It was super interesting and it was just so exciting. I went through the audition tapes with people that I trusted, people who have very strong opinions, so I knew that they would be good people to ask. We narrowed it down to 2 people for Clara, and this was a serious struggle. It took me ages to decide, but we went with Layla in the end because I really liked how she had Clara's attitude, but also because I knew that I'd worked with her before. I knew that she was reliable and hardworking. It was really odd, but also fun to be on the other side, casting instead of acting. But now I really do understand the whole it's not what you know, it's who you know situation. Despite that, I do think Layla was the best decision, and I will stick to that. I thought she did an absolutely fantastic job, and I trusted my instincts, and she was fantastic. I knew because this was gonna be super low budget that I couldn't hire out a studio space for this, especially because I had a lot to film. So I knew I had to use my room as Holly's room. But I really wanted it to look different and to look good, to make it, even though it was low budget, to make it look like it wasn't almost, even though it definitely did. I also wanted to separate the character Holly from me because I film a lot in my room already for YouTube. I knew I had to make my room look completely different. Also, on a side note, that was also the reason why I decided to do a completely different accent to my own as well, to really separate the character, because I already wear like 80s clothes and stuff. The accent wasn't perfect. You know, I worked hard. It could have been better. I have improved a lot now, I do believe. But, yeah. Moving on. I used Pinterest a lot to get inspiration, looking at 80s bedrooms and stuff. And then I went ahead and started decorating my room. Thankfully, as a Harry Potter fan and a fan of the 80s, I already had a lot of stuff that could work for it. I decided to rearrange my room to make it look completely different, like this bed was this way. But I knew I had to do something drastic to make it look completely different, and an idea I had was wallpaper. Wallpaper would automatically make it look like a completely different room, except that I live in a rented flat, so I can't wallpaper the room. My landlord would not be happy, so I spent hours upon hours researching how I could do this without ruining the walls. When I came across fabric wallpaper with liquid starch, I decided to take the risk and try it out. So here is my process of trying that out. So order some liquid starch from Amazon. This is not scary at all. This isn't what happened in the tutorial videos I was watching. I think I might know what the problem is. This isn't cotton, and the people on the video said to use cotton fabric. Hello, so it's the day after. This is still stuck on. It's very firm. I've got a slight concern though. I peeled some of it. I peeled some of it here, and it's kind of left a mark. I don't know if you can see. Uh-oh, magic eraser. It's actually working, so we will get our deposit back still. Ta-da! All gone! I'm so relieved. It worked! I can confirm that it didn't damage the walls. I've taken the wallpaper off on this side, and this side, nothing. I am so impressed. The wallpaper was the most expensive thing in the series. It cost me around £100 for the wallpaper and the liquid starch. And I have my Patreons to thank for that. Thank you very much. I used Patreon money for this project, by the way, which is super amazing, and I'm super thankful, so thank you, Patreon. The series cost around £350 to make, so super low budget. It's still a lot of money, but that's super low budget for a series. It took me about 3 weeks to get the whole room sorted. Then I actually still had to sleep and work in this room while I was filming it. I'm in a different area today because my room right now is actually a set for the series that I'm working on, and I actually filmed the first episode today. I think I was in this room as Holly's room for about 3 months. Probably more, actually. I don't know, it was a long time. And yeah, true method actor. Okay, so the script was done, the room was done, the cast were cast, it was time to film. I decided to dedicate a whole week of filming for Holly's solo episodes in my room. For that, I had to do a lot of preparation. I had to learn so many lines because it was all monologued, a lot of it, and yeah, a lot of learning to do. Even though I did have an advantage because I wrote it, so I knew exactly what she was saying. I knew where the story was going. But still, I had to learn it to make sure I got the story across well. And also a lot of them were in one take to make it even more realistic. So that was a huge challenge. I actually started by filming some of the last episode first, which took place outside of Holly's room in London because of people's schedules. It was the most challenging day. It was in a public space, so we had to make sure we didn't get told to move on. We only took ourselves and the camera for equipment to stay as inconspicuous as possible. We also had the general public being, well, the public, staring at us with our props and costumes, and also just being in shot. The noise was insane too. Also, the person playing the dad sadly had an issue with his travel that morning, so couldn't come. So we had to give all the lines and actions to Becky, the woman who played the mum that morning. She was great. She picked it up very quickly. I'm so thankful for that. The setup was super easy. One half of my room was the set, the other half had my camera on a tripod with the ring lights behind it, and I filmed most of it myself. Only 2 episodes did I have help from my housemate. Thank you! She helped me with the magic in the birthday episode and also helped film the part of the final episode outside of Holly's room. My favourite days were when Layla came in to film with me. I enjoyed bouncing off another actress and it was just not as lonely. Sometimes I find it hard to film by myself, especially since I was technically directing, producing and acting in it. I didn't have a second eye telling me, oh, maybe try it this way. Kelsey, your accent is shit. Give me more, or give me less, just give me a little bit less. Also, because I was filming at home, I had a lot of distractions. The postman, neighbours, and the temptation to just look at memes instead with no one telling me off. I had to be super self-motivated. I actually did this by playing music loudly on the boombox video. So, I'd filmed it all, done, dusted. Now, to move on to post-production and editing, which again, I had to do all by myself. Thankfully, a lot of the shots were one takes, like I said, and once I figured out what settings I wanted to use to make it look like it was filmed on an old camera, that was pretty easy on that end. I basically figured that out by watching a lot of YouTube tutorials and experimenting. Oh, by the way, I used Final Cut to edit this, but I've actually I'm moving more onto Premiere Pro at the minute. The hardest part was actually the audio. I knew I wanted a boombox in the story to just help add atmosphere to it. I don't know, music is an important part to me, and yeah, the boombox. Well, the boombox ended up playing an important role in the story in the end. Finding the music took so long, literally weeks, trying to find the right music and what fitted with what situation in the story. I used most of my music from Epidemic Sound, so big up to them. I have a membership on there. Not sponsored, by the way, I just really enjoy using them. Also, I got Leslie Way, a guy who I've collaborated in the past on songs with. You guys should check him out, he's awesome. He's actually got a new EP out. Sneaky promo. Yeah, Leslie Way made an 80s version of Hedwig's theme, the Harry Potter theme, for the trailer as well, which was super cool, and I still use that sometimes in my intros. I think I'm going to use it in the intro for this. I'll actually put a link down below to Leslie. I also had to make the speaking audio sound like it was being recorded from an old camera. I didn't use any external microphone, by the way, I just used the microphone on my G7X. That was super challenging because I get the setting for one video and then it would just change. I'd have to keep readjusting it for each episode, and sometimes for different parts of the episode that was so time consuming. Mixing it all as well was very time consuming with the music, and then I also had sound effects too, which it takes a while to source. Yeah, so audio was the biggest challenge, I think. I planned the release. I announced that this is going to be a thing. I've been building the promo up for a couple of months. I even released a trailer. I'm super pumped and excited. I actually had a break before it was released. I went to LA with my friends, so I actually didn't have time, even though it was all edited, I didn't have time to render out the first episode. The series was going to be released straight after I came back from LA, so you guys know where this is going. I got home super jet lagged from LA, and the episode is coming out the day after, and I have render problems. It just won't render out. So I spend a whole day panicking, seriously considering that I have to push it back because I just couldn't figure it out. Turns out there was like a missing file in the project settings. Thank God I figured it out, so everything was still according to plan. I decided to put the first episode out as a Twitch premiere. I'd announced all of this before, and then that same night I would upload the first episode to YouTube. At that time, YouTube premieres weren't a thing. I'm so happy that they exist now. I really didn't know what the reaction was going to be from my audience because I'd never done anything like this before. I don't know if they were going to love it or hate it or just not be bothered. So yeah, I just didn't know what to expect. The Twitch stream went really well. It was a dedicated audience. They really loved it, but it was my dedicated audience. They are always really nice and they always uplift me and they always seem to enjoy everything I make. So I was kind of expecting that because I knew it was going to be the dedicated people. So then I uploaded it to YouTube. The comments and the people who watched it seemed to really enjoy it, which made me happy. People really seemed to be enjoying the story. However, these videos did perform poorly compared to my other videos on YouTube, which I was kind of expecting. But I did notice that the trailer and the first episode got way more views and then the views really dropped off. Looking back, I know why. The first episode sucked. It was boring. I wanted everyone to know about Holly, everything about her, and of course I wanted to keep it authentic by doing it only in one take, so it just ended up being really long. So I am thankful to everyone who kept watching the story, who was still interested in it and managed to push through that first episode. I have definitely learnt my lesson on that. There's some parts in this series that seriously make me cringe. Some of the like story bits and the acting for an example. I know there's things in here that I could have done to make it a little bit better, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that despite the countless hours and effort that I put into it, it wasn't well received compared to other videos on my channel. It wasn't pushed out. That doesn't matter to me because this was such a gigantic learning curve for me on everything. From writing, from organising myself and others, to filming in different ways, to editing in different ways. Skills that I've now taken on board for Sisters of House Black and other things. Thankfully, Sisters of House Black is not being made just by me. There's a team of people which makes it so much more fun and so much more... Do I want to say easier? I'm not going to say easier. But I'm super grateful for that, so thank you everyone who's working on Sisters of House Black, who's supporting it as well. Thank you. Also, some people enjoyed it. That's all that matters. I entertained some people for a few hours. I let them imagine and escape. It's a simple story with a simple setup, but like the theme of the story, we all have something inside of us, even if we are small and not fully the hero. Right, okay, so I actually had to take this wallpaper down because we're having a house inspection tomorrow, and even though it doesn't damage the walls, I feel like they're gonna have a problem with it, so sadly I have to take this wallpaper down. Thought it'd be a perfect end to this video. Let's hope that it doesn't damage the wall. The other ones didn't, but let's go for it. Yes! See? Okay, let's try the other one. And there we go! Thank you, Diaries of the Quiet Heroes. Thank you. If you want to support me even further, don't forget that I have a Patreon which helped me make Diaries of the Quiet Heroes, which helps me make cool videos. You can get some cool rewards if you're a Patreon, or if that doesn't take your fancy, I also have funky fresh merch on Teespring, so you can support me by getting some of that and repping some great style, if I say so myself. Anyway, and thanks for watching this video. I shall see you in the next one.